We're in Colossians chapter 1. This is a church that Paul did not plant. Paul never visited in his entire ministry. But he did write a letter to these folks. He had visitors from the church. He had Epaphras, who's here, and probably the man who would carry back this letter, and Philemon. The church was in Philemon's house, I believe. This was a city that had been prominent 100 years before this, but it was in decline, in some serious decline at this time. Not a big city, not a big church. In fact, this city would be wiped out about 2 years after they received this letter, and everybody would have to leave, lose everything by a volcano. So, it's not got a super history. It didn't last very long. It was in the same area, though, as Laodicea. So it was probably a letter that was read to all of those. And certainly the letter to Laodicea, some of these believers here may have ended up there and ended up in that church and had that letter written or read to them. So just to kind of give you the background again of where they were at, there's a heresy or a problem within the church with the way they worship and how they worship. This is a culture that had a habit of trying to bring together all forms of worship into one place. So if you had, the new religion in town, you may have converts to your religion, but often they brought their idols and they brought their other religious activities in with them. It's something that even missionaries today still experience when they reach out to new cultures. It's something that it doesn't even have to be new cultures anymore. The church is racked full of churches that are doing the very same thing. And the thing that stands out to me is the whole coexist deal, that we can all not just live together, but we can participate in one another's religions. And, it's not like your neighbor can have a different religion and you guys can live peacefully with each other anymore. It is, if your neighbor has another religion, you need to embrace it. You need to experience it. We should experience everybody's culture. We should participate in all of their things. It's just interesting to me that Christianity is not really included in that. And, not true Christianity anyways. If you are a follower of the Bible, even the Catholic Church will embrace everything except for Bible teaching evangelicals. They don't like us. We are still out there. If you're a mainline denomination that is still participating in liturgies and that kind of thing, then the Catholic Church welcomes you. But when you are fundamental, Bible-believing, teach the Bible, Bible only, they don't like it. And you are still not part of the church. It's amazing to me. They'll have Buddhists come and pray. They'll have Hindus come and do their thing. They'll even have Native American tribes come and do their thing. But evangelical Christians, not so much. Anyhow, this kind of practice was going on in Colossae and in the church. But Paul doesn't really define it too much right away, because in that kind of practice, we have a different view of Jesus if you practice that way, if you believe that way, that Jesus is a way to God, and not the way, not the one and only way. So Paul goes into great detail here to define who Jesus is first, and then his work, and then what it means to be a follower of him, how that work works out in us. And so we began, I was back up to verse 9 just to read and start reading there. It says, "For this reason we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you and ask that you may be filled with knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might according to his glorious power, for all patience and long-suffering with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light." So, just real quick, we're to walk worthy of his word. We're to experience God. All of that speaks of an experiential relationship with Jesus. To increase or be filled with the knowledge of his will, to have spiritual understanding, able to walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing Him, to have fruit in our lives, to increase in the knowledge of God. You cannot increase in the knowledge of somebody if you do not interact with them. You know, a husband and wife, you can get married and that can be it. All the depth of the relationship ends at the altar. And unfortunately that happens. And they think that they can hang on to their individual lives and do their own separate things all the time, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work with peace. It doesn't work with knowledge. It doesn't work with fruit in that marriage, especially not in a marriage that is seeking to honor God. It doesn't work. You have to know one another. You have to interact with one another. You have to make one new life with one another. This is not two lives under one roof. It is one life you're making new. All right, so to know God then, to know Jesus, we have to interact. We have to read His Word to know what He expects, to know what He teaches us. It's not enough for us to just hear people say God is love and just take that at face value. You need to get in here and see how love is defined, how He defines love. It's not an emotion. The world will just have us think that it's an emotion. Love is not an emotion. It is a way of life full of all kinds of emotions. Many people who love somebody will be brokenhearted and crushed for that person. Parents whose children have gone off and gotten involved in worldly things and gotten away from the church or gotten away from God, crushed by that. You know, it's not some happy emotion, is it? You still love that child even though they've gone astray. You want them to come back. You are not happy with where they're at. Love is not some happy, feel-good emotion. It is a way of life. Each day that parent chooses to get up and love that child anyways. Each day we choose to get up and we choose to love our spouse that day. And choosing to love doesn't mean we choose to receive their love, and if we don't get it, well, then it's a horrible day. No, choosing to love means we choose to pour out our life into that person. Whether they receive that or not is on them. But we choose to act in love toward other people, with all patience and long suffering. So patience, we talked about, was speaking of our circumstance of our life, and long suffering, our interaction with other people, and patience. So God says, if you're going to be a fruitful Christian, you're going to increase both in patience and long suffering. And the only way to do that is to go through hard times, to have difficult experiences and trials and tribulations, which Jesus promised we would have. This is not something you get if you pray for patience. You don't automatically just get trials and tribulations. You're going to get them anyways. Why not pray for the patience to be able to maintain through those? That is a ridiculous teaching to say, don't ever pray for patience because it means hard times are going to come. That's the only way God can teach you patience. Why would you not want the fullness of whatever God has for you? I mean, how much greater submission is that to submit to His will for your life? If it means I have to go through something to know your patience more, to experience patience, to be able to wait on you longer, harder, in more desperate times. Each time gets more and more desperate, doesn't it? How will my kids know how to maintain that if they don't see me go through it? And long suffering. You're not going to have long suffering if you don't have people that, rub up against you the wrong way in your life. God doesn't give us those people to be able to pray against them and ask them to be removed. He gives us those people to grow us, to teach us how to love when they aren't really that lovable, when they won't even receive it. But you keep loving. Even though they keep poking, you keep loving. So anyways, and giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance. You were not qualified for God's grace. You're not qualified for His mercy. You're not qualified for His love. He qualified us to experience that. He qualified us, thank goodness, because we could not measure up to what the requirements are to have an inheritance with God. It is absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. You can't do this. Adam had one rule to follow. Don't eat from that tree. One rule. If you only had one rule in your life, and you just had to obey that one rule, and you would get to be in heaven with God forever, you'd break it. You'd break it. And it did, Adam lived over 900 years. It didn't take him but probably a few days to break the rule. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how long they were in the garden, but still, it didn't take him 900 years. It didn't take him 600 years. It took a pretty short time to break that rule. But thankfully, because of the work that Jesus did, because of his death on the cross, because of his providing his blood as our atoning sacrifice, because he redeemed us, as we're going to see here in a minute, we are now qualified to receive that inheritance. So verse 13, where we left off, says, he has delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of his love, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. So he's conveyed us. He has translated us. He has moved us from darkness into light, from darkness into the kingdom of his Son. He didn't just say, okay, you're saved, and leave you in darkness. Sometimes it feels like it. The psalm we read this morning, the writer of that psalm felt overwhelmed by the circumstance. But you saw that after he pours out his heart about the circumstance, toward the end, he begins to worship God and remind himself of who his king is. The maker of both the dark and the light, the maker of the heavens and the earth, the maker of all things. Right? The provider of all people, the people who live in the wilderness are provided their food by God. He's delivered us from the power of darkness, from that which conceals us from God, that which lulls us to sleep. In Thessalonians, when we get there to 1 Thessalonians, in chapter 5, Paul goes into great detail about this, defines it a little more. It says, but concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. Now, I just heard a Christian song that I've sung 100 million times, talked about the Lord coming as a thief in the night. But that song is not even written to or toward non-believers. It's as though they've just assumed he's going to come, because we don't know the day or the hour, that it'll be like a thief in the night to us. But look what Paul says here. So we know he comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. You are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night or nor of the darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober. We are to be alert. We're to be ready. We're not to be lulled into this. We're not to think everything is a joke, everything is funny, everything is sarcasm, everything. No, we're to be sober-minded. We're to take this seriously. We're to be watchful and to be ready for his coming. Not flirting around and fooling around with the world. Not in and out of darkness and light. We are children of the day. We are children of the light. We have been, he just said to the Colossian church, you have been moved from darkness into the kingdom of the Son. There is no darkness in him. John describes him as the light of the world that came into this world and men hate the light. They hate the light lest their deeds would be exposed. That's why they love the darkness. They sleep at night and they're drunk at night, John would say. We can't be like that. This day that is coming should not overtake us like a thief. We're going to have some surprise because we don't know exactly the day or the hour. But we know he's coming. And we're to be watchful. We're to be ready. Not like, you get woke up in the middle of the night by a broken window and somebody's coming into your house to steal your stuff. But to look out the window waiting for the headlights of Grandma and Grandpa coming down the road, and here they are, and we knew they were coming, and they finally got here, and we're all happy, and we're all excited, and we're ready to go, and we're ready to have a good time. You know what I'm saying? We should not be overtaken by this. And we need to live, guys, like we're part of the kingdom of the Son. We're to be different. This be holy because your Father in heaven is holy is not just an Old Testament principle. Paul would write it. Peter will write it. It's New Testament too. We're to be holy because our Father is holy. He's just told them, walk worthy of Jesus. He told the Philippian church the same thing. He told the Ephesian church the same thing. Walk worthy of the name that is on you. Because in him we have redemption through his blood. The redemption there is not just, I don't know what exactly how you envision that, but we've seen, and again, it's a word that was defined in Philippians, a word that's defined in Ephesians. It is to be bought from the slave block. That's what that word, the redemption, means. The Greek word means to be bought from the slave block. You were paid for. You were bought through his blood, given the forgiveness of your sins. The price of your sinful nature, the price of your wicked, dark heart was paid by Jesus on the cross. His blood poured out as the perfect sacrifice. All of those Passover lambs, all of those sacrificed animals were all pointing to that time, that day, when the perfect sacrifice would be put on the cross for our sin. When in darkness, he would be in darkness, the whole earth covered in darkness for 3 hours. As the wrath of God is being poured out on his Son. Now we have this vision oftentimes, and some of our Pentecostal brothers are kind of responsible for this, that Jesus went to hell and he suffered in the flames, and he didn't do that. What did he say to the thief on the cross? We know exactly where he went. He went to paradise. He experienced death. He experienced Hades. But evidently, there's two parts to that. If we read and take literally the story that he told of Lazarus and the rich man, there was a place where there's a division. And Lazarus went to Abraham's bosom, and he was comforted, and he was at peace, and he had the other saints that had gone before him were there with him. And on the other side of this great chasm is a place of suffering where the rich man was. And you can say, well, that was just a story. That's not just a story. I'm telling you, there's truth in everything that Jesus says, and I believe that that was a description of what happened before the cross. And he said he went and he was going to paradise. And he tells that man on the cross next to him who believed in him, today, this day, you're going to be with me in hell, in a place of suffering. No, in paradise, man. You're going to be with me. So the character on the other side, yeah, not so much. You are coming with me because you believed. At the last second, you believed. We've been redeemed by his blood, and the forgiveness of sins is ours. The forgiveness of our sin. That is a high, high cost that you'll never know. If you've given your heart to the Lord, if you've asked him to forgive your sin, if you received this grace, you will never know what he experienced on the cross. You'll never know that time of darkness. When he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? You'll never know that. And believe me, whatever trial, whatever tribulation you face here that you consider to be hell on earth is not even close to that. In fact, we've talked about, again, in the 2 previous books, over and over again, I'm sure we'll get to it before we get here, being with Jesus and being in his glory is going to so far overwhelm any horror that we've gone through that we won't even remember it. It's going to so far outweigh any bad thing we've ever experienced that we won't remember it. He is, now we're going to define Jesus here, right? He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. So he is the image. He is, one commentator puts it, the very stamp of the image of God. He is the image of God. the firstborn over all creation. Protokos. We get our word protocol from it. He is not the first created being, as Jehovah's Witnesses want to put out. He and Lucifer are not sons of God, and one had a better plan than the other one, and when the one was rejected, he turned evil. That's a Mormon thing. That's not true either. Jesus is God. He is part of the Godhead. He is the Trinity, part of the Trinity, the Son. Father, Son, Holy Spirit united as one. They are one God. Firstborn, the protokos just means, let's see what I remember here. First in line or supreme in rank. Yeah, the first in line or supreme in rank. It doesn't mean that he was created. It just means he was before all things that were created. He was firstborn over all creation. He was just before creation. He was there. It says, for by him, and Paul goes on to define that, for by him all things were created that are in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him. Now, you can't have a creator of all things and be created yourself. Either he's part of the all things, or Paul's right, and he created all things. He is the creator. And I've argued this with Jehovah's Witnesses before. They're like, no, he's created. He was created. He's first begotten. No, he wasn't. He wasn't conceived. He was there. He created. All things are for him, or all things were created through him and for him. And literally means that everything is issuing out from him. Everything came out of him. Everything was created by him. And everything is for him. It says literally everything is pouring out and everything returns to him. It is all his. It says, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist. Nothing exists, nothing stays existent without him. The earth doesn't hold together without him. If you can imagine him having all of creation in his hand, everything in him, right? And then you go to Peter's letter, and it says, at a moment, there's going to be a loud noise and fervent heat. It's going to be like he just lets go. It's just, whew. But for now, right now, and then there's a new creation holding together. So we have Jesus, 100% man, 100% God. Right? That little baby in the manger we talked about at Christmas time, that little baby in the food trough, at the same time was holding everything together. Holding the straw together in its existence. But he created everything, the thrones. Listen, and we've talked about this again. To be overwhelmed by the circumstances that this world is in now. To look at the presidential race and go, what are we doing? All of that. Understand. The guy who's there now is there because God wanted him there. To take us in the direction this nation needs to go for whatever reason. The next person there will be there because God puts them there. I still believe we have the responsibility to participate in this. He has put us in a country where we have a say. And our say when we throw the switch needs to be in honor of God and not in honor of our favorite person. And that's the bottom line for that. You want to know how to vote? That's how you vote. Is this person going to honor God? Nope. And if you get a category where nobody's honoring God, skip it. Don't go in and throw one switch for everybody. We have more responsibility than that. There may have been a day in the past where we could have done that. It's not so now. You have more responsibility in your participation to honor God in this place where we live than to just go in, throw one switch, and be done just so you can get it out of the way and say, I did my patriotic duty. If all you have in mind is to be patriotic toward this country, then fine, do that. But I'm telling you, you are misusing your God-given responsibility that nobody else has to honor him with your vote. I still think you should vote, and I still think, but you need to research and honor him with that vote. But he's created the principalities. He's created the powers behind those positions that we vote for. Because it really doesn't take much to understand it. A lot of times, most of the time, for the country, for the people, for the general population, those people are just figureheads. The real power is behind that. And they know the direction that the world's going in, or this world wouldn't be heading there so fast. The principalities, the powers, everything, angelic beings, all of them, both good and bad, were created by him. He didn't create the fallen angels in a fallen state, just like he didn't create Adam in a fallen state. But he created them with a will, just like he created us with a will, and they could choose to follow the God, or they could choose to follow Lucifer. We could choose to follow God, or we could choose to hand it all over to Satan. And the reality of it is, as much as he is the God of this world, everything still belongs to God. That whole, if you will bow down and worship me, I'll give you all of this. That was speaking of the hearts of men. I'll hand all the hearts of men over to you. I wasn't talking about a piece of dirt. He's talking about men, mankind, their heart, their desire to follow something and somebody. I'll give it all over to you. I'll just give it to you. He's like, just worship the Lord your God and him only. I'll worship you for any kind of reward, because, you know, and if you again have truly given your heart to the Lord, you know there is no reward that anybody, any moment, any power can give you that will equal what you have in heaven. Even for somebody who gives their heart to the Lord with their last breath, will still have more in heaven than all of the money of this globe, all of the power of this globe. He's before all things, in him all things consist, and he is the head of the body of the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he may have preeminence. And the firstborn from the dead, we know, is not the first one raised to life from the dead. Happened in the Old Testament, right? Elijah did it. Jesus himself would raise people from the dead, but they were resuscitated. They weren't resurrected. Not like we're going to be resurrected. Their bodies weren't made new. They were restored back to their previous fallen state. Poor Lazarus, 4 days in heaven. Got to come back. And I've never seen a picture of Lazarus, but they say that any artist that ever paints Lazarus paints him with a long face. Like he was a miserable person after he came back. I kind of find that hard to believe, at least, before the cross. Or at least while Jesus was, there with him. I'm sure he got to see him after the resurrection. Sorry I had to bring you back like this. This is what you get to look forward to. Just like everybody else. Firstborn, first resurrected. The resurrection begins with Jesus. We'll experience the resurrection at the rapture of the church. And in the end, all will be resurrected with a body that's able to endure eternity. Believers and non-believers. Because they will endure an eternity in punishment. They will still be eternal beings. They are not going to go into some oblivion where they just cease to exist. It's another argument you can have with Jehovah's Witnesses. They think annihilation is it. Man, God's a loving God. He was not, only a certain number in heaven. Everybody else just ceases to exist. Doesn't matter how many places you go in the Bible and show them the description of hell. or point out to them that Jesus spoke more of hell than he did of heaven, trying to get people to understand what it was going to be like, that it is real. It is real. I don't care what Rob Bell says. It's real. People are going to go. I tell you what, there was an incident with him. I don't say an incident, but we were around up in Grand Rapids when he started the church up there. And we didn't live right in Grand Rapids. We lived a distance away, but we had interaction with the one Calvary Chapel that was in Grand Rapids at the time. And church grew. The Rob Bell's church grew. He got very popular really fast. And at first seemed pretty solid. And we knew people who left Calvary Chapel to go there. Here's the importance of where they came from before they went there. So when he started speaking heresies, they all left. They were able to recognize this is not what God's word says. I don't think I know anybody who left to go to that church that stayed there. And as a pastor or a person who was trying to start a church and became an assistant pastor, my journey on this, being a pastor, that just drove home to me the importance of teaching God's word accurately, because it doesn't matter if people leave. If you leave, for whatever reason you leave, but I want you to know wherever you go who the false teachers are, because you sit there and listen and you know. You can leave mad at me if you want to. That's fine. But I will be as happy as can be if I find out later that you went someplace and you found out that was a heretic and you left. You don't even have to come back and apologize to me. Just go through your thing. I don't care. That's fine. All I know is that's important for you to know. To know the truth when you hear it, to know a lie when you hear it. He's the head of the church. There's not a pastor who's the head of the church. There's not a pope who's the head of the church. There's not anybody who's the head of the church outside of Jesus himself. There's nobody who even represents him so highly that they could be the head of the church. Not even a symbol of the head of the church. He's the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he may have preeminence. He has to be first in all things. In our careers, in our relationships with spouses, with children, with neighbors. He has to be first. You're turning on the TV, you're turning on the radio, music, teacher, television show, drama, comedy, whatever it is. If he is first in your life, you'll know very quickly whether or not what you're doing or what you're about to experience honors him or not. He has to be preeminent. Absolutely nobody even a second close. Not even close. For it pleased the Father, and we're going to get into the work of Jesus now, or the work of Jesus. For it pleased the Father, we're already kind of into that anyways. For it pleased the Father that in him all the fullness should dwell, and by him to reconcile all things to himself, by him, whether things on earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of his cross. So it pleased the Father that all the fullness of God should dwell in him. He is God. It pleased the Father that all the fullness would dwell in him. If you go to Isaiah 53:10, there's another verse there. It says it pleased the Lord, or it pleased the Father, to bruise him, to make him the one that brings the forgiveness of sin. This interaction with God begins with Jesus. And it pleases the Father that every aspect of God should be played out through Jesus, through this life, that he would come into this world, that he would become a man. That he would do the unthinkable, that he would do the things that we're not able to do, that he would face the cross, that he would reconcile creation back to him, that he would reconcile man back to him. Everything comes back to him, whether on earth or whether in heaven. And you, who once were alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he is reconciled. Now, I don't often read the Psalms I'm going to read on Sunday morning. I don't usually read them maybe once right before I come up, just so I'm familiar enough I'm not stuttering over it too bad. But often, just like some of the songs we sing, I get up here and I start to read them going, Lord, this fits with what we're doing. This fits with where you're having us now in the study. And he talked about being an enemy in that psalm, and the enemies of God, and wanting God to crush the enemies. But look who we were. We were once alienated, had no part with him, and enemies in our minds, enemies of God. See, we don't sin by accident, guys. We don't rebel against God by accident. We make up our minds. These are completely choices. That's why Paul could say to the Roman church, no man coming into this world will be able to stand with an excuse before God. Nobody. We chose to rebel. We chose to sin. We choose every day whether we're going to sin or honor God. We don't fall into it by accident. But he chose to reconcile us. He chose to do what it took to reconcile us, to bring us into him, to make it possible for us to come to him. And he chose us. Before the foundation of the world, he chose us. Before let there be light, he already knew who you were and what you were going to do, and how wicked your works were going to be, how much of an enemy in your mind, how much rebellion you were going to choose to. He already knew that, and he still chose you. He chose us. He called us. He made it sure. He didn't just choose you and then said, well, now as long as they hear. He made sure you heard. He made sure you had the opportunity to choose. He knew the choice you would make. He sees us already glorified with him. He sees us complete. We're not experiencing it right now, but it's done. It's a done deal. God is not locked inside of time. He is outside of time. He created it. And so he was able to see and to choose. Yet now he is reconciled. You were alienated, enemies in your mind, wicked works, and now, yet, even after all of that, you are chosen, and you are reconciled to him. He has made you right. He's made you righteous. In the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and blameless and above reproach in his sight. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't feel very holy and blameless most of the time. That war is going on still. The one who accuses, and too often I give him reason to be able to accuse me. But thank God for the Son who also stands beside me and says, he's mine. He's mine. I paid for that already. You can't. So we have one that stands and accuses us all day long, and one that stands and defends us all day long. He is our mediator between God and man. He is the one that argues our case for us. And the only thing we have is that we have been redeemed by his blood and his cross. It's the only thing we have. You have all the evidence. The enemy can produce all the evidence. But there's the one big evidence, the one big argument, the cross. Father, here's your requirement, and he took it. Price has been paid. that if indeed you continue in the faith, grounded and steadfast, and are not moved away from the hope of the gospel which you heard, which was preached in every creature under heaven, or preached to every creature under heaven, of which I, Paul, became a minister. It's as if indeed you continue on in the faith. Now, does this mean you can lose your salvation? I don't think so. I don't think that's what he's saying. I'm saying that staying in that fight and in that struggle, you're going to have days when you're not going to be faithful. You're going to have days when you're not going to do it right. You're going to have days when you fall on your face, when you rebel. You're going to have those days. But if you truly belong to him, you won't stay there for very long. And very long could mean a couple different things. You know, it might be minutes, it might be a couple of years. And I'll stand by my statement that a believer who is not walking in fellowship with God is the most miserable person on the face of this earth, because he knows where he's supposed to be. The awesome thing is, and I'll say this on this side of my rebellion, the awesome thing is that he'll remind you every step of the way, I haven't left you. I'm still here with you. You're still mine. You stubborn, rebellious, stiff-necked child, you're still mine. But here's the deal. If you want assurance of that, then keep walking with him. How do I know he's never left me? How do I know he's not? How do I know I haven't lost my salvation? Quit moving away from him. Stay in the faith. Continue in the faith. Get grounded. Be in his word. Steadfast. Not movable. You're not movable because you're wounded. You're not movable because you're hurt. You're not movable because of a tribulation or a trial. You're not moving away from God no matter what. Right? No matter what. If all you have left is what Martha had, you are the Christ that's come into the world. If that's all you got left to stand up at the end of the day, that's all you have to have. You're still there. You get up, and his mercy's new the next morning. You get up and you start over. But if that's all you got left, you're the Christ who's come into the world. If that's what you have to hang on to get through the day, to get through whatever you're going through, you're not sure where God's going with this, you're not sure why it hasn't ended yet, but if that's all you have, you're the Christ who's come into the world. That's enough to be able to lay your head down at night in peace. And to have the strength the next day to get back up. You're not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which you heard. Right? You're not moved away from it. If you'll stay in that, if you'll stay grounded, if you'll stay steadfast, you'll stand. My goodness, guys. Ephesians, Philippians, now Colossians, stand. Be steadfast. Be immovable. No matter what. All the things that want to drive these things away from us, that want to drive away our hope, that want to make us just desperate and just in despair, and those things are going to keep coming, and they're going to keep coming as long as we're here. But we have a God who is greater. We don't have to stay there. We can make a stand. We can say, no farther. No more. Well, how can you say that? Because this is not dependent on me. Because if it's dependent on me, I'm done. But because I have God in me. Because I have the Holy Spirit dwelling inside of me. Because the Father and the Son have made their home with me. I can stand. And what did he tell the Ephesian church? When you've done everything you can possibly do to stand, stand anyways. You think you're going to fall over, think you can't take anymore? Go one more second. Go one more minute. I can't take this anymore. Tell him I can't take this anymore. In the time it takes for you to say that, you've already stood a little bit longer. Stand. Battles are won and lost by the determination of the soldiers that are fighting the battles, not by whether or not they have enough rest or not by whether or not they're happy or they're sad. The determination they are not going to lose have brought on the stories of battles of soldiers of all different cultures, of all different nations that have won battles they should not have won. My grandfather was a ranger in World War II. They sent those guys on suicide missions. All they were supposed to do was weaken the enemy so then the military could come in behind them, the rest of the military, and win the battle. And often when they got there, those men had already won the battle. It was just cleanup time. Because they didn't take it as it's a suicide mission. I won't be moved. I will move forward. I don't care how big the enemy is. I will move forward. I will do what God has commanded me to do. This gospel, this good news that we have, the one who empowers us to be able to live like this, has been preached to every creature under heaven. Every creature under heaven. All of creation has heard the gospel. That is even the command that Jesus gave. Not to go out and preach the good news to people. It's to go out and preach the good news to every creature. Man, if you got nobody else to talk to and you're, going to have to talk to your cat anyhow, then talk to him about Jesus. It's just practice. Your cat's not going to get saved, but it's just practice. Right? Go out and speak to the stars and just go out and look at God's creation and say, you have created all of this. God is going to redeem all of this. He is already redeemed. He's going to reconcile everything. One day, that bare spot in your grass, guess what? You're going to be made new someday. New creation. All done, all gone new, brand new, everything brand new. New heaven, new earth, all redone, all reconciled, all faster than the home improvement guys on DIY. And better. Better than you can do, better than I can do, beyond what we can even imagine. All brand new. Don't forget your hope. You can't lose hope. We can't look at this mess that we live in and lose hope. The church has been persecuted from day one. From the day of Pentecost. The same day the Spirit was poured out on the church, they were persecuted. It starts with being rounded up and told not to speak in His name anymore, beaten, let go, stoned to death, heads cut off, whatever. Persecuted. Cities burnt. The 20th century, that 100 years, more Christians martyred than in all the centuries before. And we're on track to do even more this century should God wait. And it's more visible now. We have this idea that it's just started. It's just visible. It's visible. And I'm telling you now, the world system has put all this violence on our TV and promoted all this violence so that we would be desensitized to that before they made it visible. And that is only there to try to intimidate other Christians. And all it's going to do is it's going to strengthen us, because every time the church came under severe persecution, it bloomed, it blossomed, it grew, it spread. They don't know what they're doing. We have brothers and sisters who have had their buildings locked up and burnt to the ground in front of them. We have brothers and sisters who have been locked in their worship buildings and had it burnt to the ground with them inside of it. In recent history, like in the last 10 years, I've heard both of those things. And it's not just the Middle East. It's India. It's China. It's Russia. It's everywhere. It's just visible now. Satan has always been against the church. He has always been against Israel. That's not going to change. Jesus didn't say, if you come to me, everything's going to be happy. Everything's going to be okay. We're all going to get along. We'll love the world into heaven. No. If you follow me, I promise you trial, I promise you tribulation, I promise you persecution, and when it comes, over and over again, I'm promising you this, it is not going to be easy. Man, if you have an easy time right now, rest, because that's what it is for you. It's rest. Rest in Him, get in His Word, get ready, because there's another battle coming. Soldiers get rotated out of fights. They get rotated out of wars. Yeah, I had 2 brothers still in during these last wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. One brother has been to Iraq like 8 times, rotated in and out of the battles. If you're at a place of rest in your life, you're there because it's your time to be rotated out. It's your time to rest a little bit. But you don't stop training. You don't stop concentrating on what He's taught you to do and what He's told you to do and how to live your life. A soldier doesn't do that. They don't come home and just kick back and throw back a few, and they come home and they rest for a little while and they begin to train. And they keep their head in the game. And they begin to get strong again, and they begin to get ready to go again because they know that their brothers are over there fighting the war and they got to go and relieve them. If you're at a place for rest, you should be praying for the people who aren't. Getting ready to join in the battle with them, to pick them up, to strengthen them, to get them to go, to grab a hold of them and say, come on, let's go. We can't lose our hope. He is the Creator God. Just like the psalmist wrote there, listed out, pours out his heart. This is what the enemy, this is what it looks like, it's what my situation looks like. But you are the King. You are the maker of all things. You are the provider of all things. You have made it all. There is nobody above you. Remember that. There is nobody above our King, our God. Don't lose the hope. Don't get caught up in the situations. Don't get caught up in your circumstance or other people's circumstance. Be patient with one another. Let the fruit of God's love in your life begin to bloom and to grow in the people that are around you. That's how Paul ends this thing. The gospel is preached to every creature under heaven, of which I, Paul, became a minister, a servant. I begin to dish it out. That's your job. I'm not the minister here. We're all ministers. That is all of our job, to dish it out. Take the gospel, dish it out. Put it out there. Keep putting it out. People will make fun of me. People will laugh at me. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Stop the excuses. Put it out. Put it out. Right? We're on a mission. Those people out there are our mission. Let's stay after it. Let's pray. Father, just thank you for what you've done for us on your cross. Lord, that you poured out your blood on us, for us, to cover our sin, to pay for our sin, things that you went through that are unimaginable that we'll never know. Thank you. Lord, make us strong. Help us to not be overwhelmed in our spirit by the circumstances that we see with our eyes. To not be discouraged because of the rejection of your word and your gospel, but to just stay at what you've called us to do, to preach the word, to be ministers of your gospel to everyone we come in contact with. Father, again, we thank you that we have a reminder. This thing that you've established within your church, a reminder of what you did, of what the Son did on the cross, how he became a sacrifice for us. So he gave up his body, he poured out his blood, and then took on your wrath. Lord, thank you for being that example to us, for being the one who took the place for us, who shows us the ultimate sacrifice. Lord, you take everything to extreme for our sake. We will never be able to sacrifice the way you did. We will never be able to give ourselves up the way you have. But Lord, you've encouraged us to try. You've told us to go for that, to reach for holiness. So, Lord, I pray that that would be the desire of our heart today, to be holy because you are. And I ask, Lord, that you will pour out the Spirit upon us to chase after that, to inspire us, to remind us who we are, so that we will walk worthy of your name. Lord, you keep us in your hand. Help us to rest and rely on that. To know that you have never left us no matter what. You will not forsake us no matter what. Lord, give us opportunity. Help us to recognize those opportunities you set in front of us. And inspire us by your Spirit. Work through us, your work in other people's lives. In Jesus' name.